Welcome back to the YouTube channel. If this is the first time on my YouTube channel, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel because I make content like this all the time. And then if you like what you're seeing right now, feel free to give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the topic at hand. And this time I want to talk about Halo Infinite because right now, as it sits, Halo Infinite is not in a great place. And a lot of people agree with that. It's not just me. So Halo Infinite came out back in November of 2021. And that game was actually supposed to be a launch title for the brand new Xbox Series X and S systems, but that game got delayed and we finally got it in November of 2021. The first time we actually saw gameplay of Halo Infinite, a lot of people were saying Halo Infinite did not look like a next-gen game. It didn't look right. It also had texture pop in and things like that. Overall, the game was just not in a great state according to a lot of people, and I would agree as well. It never really looked like it was a polished game or anything like that when we first saw gameplay of the actual game. But anyway, the game did come out in November of 2021, and the interesting thing about Halo Infinite was they did actually split up the game. They have a multiplayer aspect of the game, which is actually free to play if you're on Xbox systems, whether you're on the old Xbox One systems or whether you're on the brand new Xbox Series S or X, and it's also playable on PC right now, free to play, of course. And they actually released the multiplayer to Halo Infinite right away. They released it in November of 2021, and then right after that, in December, they did finally release the campaign for the game. And overall, I could honestly say the game is absolutely fantastic, at least in my opinion. I know a lot of people out there are going to have mixed feelings on Halo Infinite, but in my opinion, I absolutely think Halo Infinite is a fantastic game. In my opinion, I think it's the best playing Halo game to date, in my opinion. You can argue that with me, oh, Halo 3 was your favorite, Halo Reach was your favorite, Halo 2 was your favorite because that was the first one to introduce a true multiplayer, online multiplayer to Halo. But either way, I think Halo Infinite is a great game. The actual core gameplay of Halo Infinite is fantastic. It more harkens back to the original Halo multiplayer games. They don't really try to add anything too crazy to the formula. I know a lot of people who do play Halo don't like it when they try to add things that kind of make the game not feel like Halo. It's just pretty much a basic shooter, and that's how a lot of people want. They don't want anything to interfere with that. They don't want it to be more like a Call of Duty experience or any other traditional shooter on the market. They want Halo to be Halo, and that's it. And that's pretty much what Halo Infinite brings to the table. It's pretty much just your standard Halo affair. They didn't go too crazy like the past Halos. Like, for instance, Halo 5, they added a whole bunch of new mechanics, especially when it comes to the actual suit. You got thrusting, just different mechanics there. And then, of course, with Halo 4 and Halo Reach, they added abilities to the armor suits, and a lot of people just weren't happy about that because it didn't feel like Halo. It really felt more like a Call of Duty experience. But all things aside, Halo Infinite is a fantastic game, and honestly, I like it. But let's talk about the bigger picture here, because there is a major problem with this game, and I think, like I said before earlier in the video, a lot of people would agree with me. It's not just my opinion, it's a lot of people's opinions, is the fact that Halo Infinite really drops the ball when it comes to the actual multiplayer side of things. When it comes to the campaign is pretty much great. It's also the first time we got an open world Halo experience when it comes to the Halo formula, so that's something new to the Halo universe. But that shouldn't be a surprise because a lot of these big franchise are starting to become open world. It just seems like it's the trend nowadays. You take a good formula that's been linear for so many years, and then you transform it into something that's much more grander, much more bigger, into a true open world game. And that's pretty much what we got with Halo Infinite, an open world game. But besides that, the campaign is a flawless campaign. But going back to the multiplayer has one big problem, and the biggest problem with the multiplayer when it comes to Halo Infinite is definitely the fact that the multiplayer is dry on content. It's not just me saying that, it's pretty much the whole community saying that, and I absolutely agree with this. I honestly wonder why they actually released this game as early as they did. It really does seem like this game deserves to be delayed, even though the actual core gameplay is flawless, is fun. It's definitely my favorite Halo game right now, period, probably out of all the Halo games released, and that's saying something considering Halo Infinite is not made by the original Bungie company. It's actually made by the developers 343 Industry, who've been making a couple Halo games now, so they have this under their belt, and it's pretty surprising considering a lot of other Halo games made by 343 Industries a lot of people don't like, and I personally don't really like those games that much either, but it's really surprising that I love the core gameplay of Halo Infinite. Right now, I already played well over 200 hours of gameplay on this game, and honestly, I would continue to play it, but of course, we all know the deal here. Elden Ring is taking up most of my time, but that's for another video and for another time and things like that. But the multiplayer aspect of Halo Infinite is just dry on content. The content that we have today, which is we're in March of 2022, is still the same content that we got way back in November of 2021, and that's just unacceptable. Apparently, according to 343 Industries, apparently they're working their butts off to try to get us as much content as possible, and they're working very hard on the project. It's not like they're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs. They're really trying as hard as possible to actually get Halo Infinite into a much better state and get content rolled out as fast as possible, but it really does seem like it's just taxing on the team. They don't have the resources. It's just really straining on the team, whatever the case may be, and that's really starting to show, and a lot of people are getting fed up because right now I think Halo Infinite definitely has the least amount of content of any Halo game on the market previously, and that's not a good sign. Of course, some of them are older games, and of course a lot of those games been out longer, so it makes sense, but it really does seem like there should at least been like 1 or 2 new maps or something in the game right now. The game's actually really in a bad state, not just with the content side of things, but also with some of the other issues with the game. Like one of the biggest issues with the game at launch specifically was the fact that the microtransactions were just very expensive, and a lot of people were actually complaining about how expensive the microtransactions were in Halo Infinite, and honestly, I can't agree with that. It kind of seems like 343 Industries and Microsoft really wanted to push this game out as fast as possible, even if they didn't have a lot of updates, a lot of content in the game, just to really try to push out microtransactions. I don't really want to call a company out and say, oh yeah, you're a bad company because all you care about is greed, all you care about is money and things like that, but we know time and time again with the gaming industry, it really does seem like a lot of companies favor money over the actual consumer, but that does make sense, of course, because why are you making these products? You're not making these products to make people happy. You're in it for a business side of things, and of course, Halo is no different. It's still a product that a company does make, and since they do make since they do run a business, they got to be in it for the profit side of things, but sometimes I feel like these companies take it way too far. There's a line that you have to draw. Sometimes you can make a good product and make people feel like you're not doing things too bad and too greedy, but then on the other side, some of these companies feel like they charge too much for their games, they charge too much for their microtransactions, they put too many microtransactions in the game, their DLC is not fair, their DLC just seems like it was ripped content out of the game, and that's pretty much what we have with the microtransaction situation with Halo. Thankfully, they did listen to the community, and they did actually lower the prices of the microtransactions in Halo Infinite, so that is actually great that they do actually understand that people are frustrated with how many microtransactions and how much they cost in Halo Infinite. Honestly, that never bothered me. I know some people were bothered by it a lot, but honestly, it never bothered me because honestly, I'm not really into cosmetics and things like that. I play the game quite frequently still today for the most part, and honestly, I don't have any problems, or I don't feel like I need to buy any of those microtransactions. They're not like microtransactions that break the game or microtransactions that make you feel like, oh, I have to pay for certain things in the microtransactions or I won't be able to enjoy the experience or be able to compete in the online multiplayer, where some games make you feel like you have to buy that one item or you really can't compete. That's the best item in the game, is locked behind microtransactions, but that's not the case here with the Halo Infinite situation. So either way, the microtransaction situation has been fixed, but there's still other problems like not having enough content, and you have to remember back in January of this year, one of the best modes, which is Big Team Battle. Big Team Battle was actually broken for a lot of people, including myself as well. When you tried to boot up the Big Team Battle mode, it just wouldn't load into a match, and they actually had to fix that game mode and things like that, and it just was not great for that mode. So you can see there is still a lot of problems with this game, and I'm not actually happy about this. It really does feel like they shouldn't have released the game, no matter how flawless, no matter how fun, no matter how good the multiplayer aspect of this game is. It's just not really a great look for the game, and it makes people not want to play the game. Apparently, to some other articles and some other things on the internet, the fan base is actually dropping off this game, and that does make sense because this game been out for a while now, and since we don't have much content in the game, a lot of people just don't want to play it. They really feel like the newness has weared off. I would personally have dropped the game if it didn't feel so good, if it didn't play so well, and things like that. I'm still going to stick with it because I am a diehard Halo fan, and not just only am I a diehard Halo fan, I am also loving the experience I'm getting out of here, but I can still admit it, even though I love the game, it is very dry on content, and that's just not a great look, especially when the main core reason you want to actually play Halo in the first place is actually for the multiplayer aspect of the game. Yes, the single player content is great, and the single player content can last you a while, but the reason why so many people play Halo in the first place is for the multiplayer PvP aspect of the game. And if you're lacking content that's been in other Halos in the past, it's just not really a great look. Like, for instance, we don't have a lot of modes that are staples in other Halo games. Like, for instance, we don't have Infection, we don't have Griffball, we don't have Team Doubles, we don't have a mode maybe like a Lone Wolf. We don't have a lot of these other modes that should be in the game right now as it stands, which is just annoying. Now, the good news is apparently 343 Industries is actually working on a brand new mode to this game. I don't know what that means. Does that mean it's a brand new game to the Halo series, or does that actually mean that it's a brand new game that just hasn't gone to Halo Infinite like a past returning mode in other Halo games today? I don't know what that is, but they are working hard on a brand new mode to the game, so that's great. But if it's taking them that long to work on a brand new mode, honestly, I would just love old returning modes to come back as quick as possible, because like I said before, this game is high and dry in content, and that's just not a great look when so many people are getting frustrated with the game, and I totally agree. And it's not only 343 that has this problem and Halo Infinite that has this problem. There's a lot of other games that really do come out that really do feel like they're unpolished games, and I'm just really not a fan of games coming out and saying, oh yeah, we'll update the game later down the road and we'll give you content in months or in years to come, because that's not really great considering these games are $60 games. Well, in the case of Halo Infinite, at least it is a free-to-play game if you want to play the multiplayer aspect side of things, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but it could be a bigger deal if it was a pay game like it usually is for $60, but luckily this game is not a paid game, it's only a free game, so I can kind of like say, oh yeah, it's not that big a deal. But for games that are $60, like for instance Cyberpunk and the new Battlefield and other games like No Man's Sky and other things like Sea of Thieves, those games just come out and they're really incomplete games. When you buy a game for $60, a lot of the times, at least for me personally and for other people, you're really expecting a complete game. Why should I waste my time buying a game for $60 and then not having content? It's kind of like, well, you might as well release the game in a couple years when the game is actually in a complete state. I understand why a lot of developers like to do this business model or this business practice or this gaming practice in the gaming industry, where they feel like they need to actually go out and actually try to add content throughout the years and throughout the life cycle of the game. They kind of want to do that because it gets hype, it builds hype around the game that wasn't otherwise there. Like for instance, maybe the game's getting a little bit older and no one's really talking about the game, so it's kind of like, yeah, we need to actually push content out and update so people will be more likely to come back to the game. And maybe if people who got tired of the game come back to the game, they're like, oh yeah, I can kind of buy microtransactions, or maybe I can tell my friends to get the game and things like that. But honestly, I'm personally not a big fan of it. At least on the bright side is you do have more content to look forward to instead of having a game just dumped all on you at one time for the $60. But again, the problem is these games cost money. Aside from Halo Infinite's multiplayer, most of these games cost money, and it's really frustrating in the gaming industry. Honestly, when you buy a game and these games are just coming out and they're unfinished games, they're broken games, like in the case of Cyberpunk and in the case of the new Battlefield game, when they're coming out broken or they're coming out missing features and things like that, it's just really unacceptable. It really does seem like they just only care about money and they want to push these games out to the consumer as fast as possible. And I'm actually really getting tired of this in the gaming industry because it's happening all too often. I wish it wasn't happening all too often, but it just happens all too often, and it's just really not a great look. And honestly, I am getting tired of it, and I think a lot of people are as well. But for me, I'm going to continue to play Halo Infinite, unfortunately, because I love the game. I know I say unfortunately because it is dry on content. It doesn't have a lot of maps. It doesn't have a lot of modes. It has the least amount of content in any Halo game, but it's unfortunate. And the bad side here is it looks like Halo Infinite is going to be stuck in this state for quite some time. It looks like new content is not coming anytime soon. So if you're hoping for new content anytime soon, I guess just do not play Halo Infinite if you're bored of it, or do not start Halo Infinite because you will not really like how much content in this game. It is high and dry, especially if you look at other Halo games or if you look at other first-person shooters on the market. It is high and dry in content, and that is unfortunate, and this is a big problem that does need to be solved, unfortunately. And that's pretty much it for this video. My frustration levels are very high, yet I still play the game because I like this game. If they don't fix something fast, I can see this game becoming a failure. Honestly, I don't want to say failure because the game's an amazing game, but I can definitely see this game being a failure years down the road if they don't fix something fast, because people are just tired of this, and it's unfortunate. That's about it for this video. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.